I'm really pleased and honored to be with you here, and I really thank the Director General for bringing me here. And again, I'm sorry, as I have another commitment, and the previous took some long time in that perspective. But anyway, cybersecurity is an important pillar of all of our digital transformations. And we said that in the morning, digital transformation is something that we are going through all sectors here in UAE, from national security to telecom to oil and gas to aviation. And one of the most critical infrastructure is aviation. And because of this cybersecurity strategy, the general overseeing that cybersecurity strategy already actually published since 2012 and have been updated in 2017 and then updated in 2020. And this updates actually covers many of the pillars that we spoke about today, including the incident response, including the collaboration partnership, as well as the capacity building, and most importantly, R&Ds and the ecosystem that we are actually trying to build, all the way from academia to government entities to industries, all of them working towards achieving that goal and that mission. One of the most important things we actually spoke about is the cyber exercises. And this is an important pillar that we emphasize in all of our sectors to actually conduct at least 3 or 4 cyber exercises over the whole year. And these cyber exercises, be it a tabletop exercise, need to be practical as well, which it dictates what are the best practices in fulfilling any incident response. And we simulate many of those cyber attacks, including, again, depending on the requirement and the attacks that happening here and there. Ransomware, for example, is one of the most important one. APTs, any of the APTs, we look at the patterns, we look at many of those aspects to fulfill that incident response capability. As it always says, you cannot control what you cannot basically see, or you cannot measure what you cannot basically quantify. And if we don't know our assets, if we don't identify the most important risk assessment across the whole aspects of that aviation, we won't be able to protect that assets. And one of the most important enablers for us and across the whole aviation sector is to have a CSOC, a centralized cyber operation security or cyber security operation center. And that SOC is not only for specific, but it's a CSOC that contains an information sharing, forensic analysis, malware analysis, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And that CSOC, or we actually have a hierarchical type of aspects, from the SOC of entities, so CSOC of sectors, to a national SOC. It's an NSOC, we call it in that perspective. And this is a very important enablers for us all to make sure we at least has a visibility of what's going on into our network, be it a traffic that actually contains bad or harmful type of aspects, be it attacks, be it scanning, be it, again, social engineering in some of those aspects. So all of this is actually enabled in that CSOC, we call it. And that's one of the enablers and one of the best practices we always actually emphasize on building. And we have great actually partners from the industries who have best practices to build that CSOC. And again, another important point that in the morning they all emphasize in is the awareness. Definitely the weakest link is the human factor in this, and definitely we need to enable those human factor not only from a technology perspective, but also even from a social and how they've been actually tricked in many of those aspects. So awareness is another pillar of an important that we already focus on. And we have a couple of initiatives. One is Cyber Pulse, which actually goes across the whole aspects of the nation as well as sectorial aspects. And we have the other one is the cyber exercises. So both of them enablers for us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was short, but that was to the point.
And again, I'm really sorry, I just have to leave, but I'm always here. I'll be here after half an hour and continue the whole day, and tomorrow I'll be here as well.
Maybe just a quick question before you leave. Is it easy to cross-culture between the state approach on cybersecurity and the civil aviation domain, where the culture is different, knowledge of cybersecurity is not very well developed. So how did you approach this cultural shock between different authorities?
So we do have, from a governance framework, an entity or a council, cybersecurity council, and their main goal is to collaborate and cooperate between all sectorials and ensure not only the standards is applied across all of them, but also create those niche type of specified sector standards for each one of those sectors. We did this, for example, for the oil and gas, where we have the generic standards across all of the entities, and we developed and enhanced that sectorial by specific sector specified type of aspects. And we do this for oil and gas, and we're working now with the aviation as well to enhance that to be a sectorial specified aspects. But again, as we mentioned in them, we do not want to start from zero. There are already great aspects there. There are already great standards, ISO, NIST, SANS, many of the standards that are already actually out there. We could adapt, we could tailor and customize or enhance depending on the sectorial aspects.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time
Thank you.
with us.
Thank you. Apologies again. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have Mr. Mohamed Sarhan, who has a presentation for us.
Yes.
Are you?
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In the last session of today, I would like to highlight some cybersecurity challenges in civil aviation and share some experience to address those challenges. The first challenge that we have is a number of technology that used. We have different system, different platform, different network. We have OT, we have IT, some system on-prem, some system on cloud. So a comprehensive framework is required to secure those technologies. Number of stakeholders is another challenge. We have airport, we have airlines, we have air navigation services, where we need a good framework, governance model framework to define the role and responsibility for all stakeholders across the organization. The third challenge is sharing the information and reporting the incident in timely manner. And we have cybersecurity culture, and I believe my colleague already talked about it. At the end, the industry is still trusted by stakeholder, passenger, investor, and we have to maintain this level of trust. In Saudi Arabia, we have a National Cybersecurity Authority, we call it NCA. It has developed a guideline, framework, standard, control, disseminating them to all government entity and critical private sector, and monitoring their compliance. We have a sample of this framework. We have essential cybersecurity framework, and for critical system, we have critical system cybersecurity control with the criteria to identify the critical system. During COVID-19 epidemic, we have telework cybersecurity control, and recently we have for social media. It's a comprehensive framework, consists of 5 domains: governance, cybersecurity defense, which is address all technical aspect. We have resilience, business continuity, and we cover cloud and third party. And the end, we have ICS, which is part of OT technology. When NCA developed this standard, after taking into consideration the security requirement of all entities within Saudi Arabia, including healthcare sector, financial sector, and telecommunication sector. Every organization must comply with the applicable control. The good thing is that all control mentioned in this framework are applicable in civil aviation, as we have different technology and different network, and platform. This is a sample how we are governing, which model we are following for cybersecurity governance. We are following a model called Target Cyber Security Model, which consists of governance model, organizational model, and functional model. In governance model, we have to identify how to engage with the external, how is the communication and cooperation with the external, whether international level or national level. We have to define how to reporting internally within the organization, reporting with the department and committee as well. And we have to define a KPI to measure the cybersecurity function within the organization. On the organization model, we have to structure the cybersecurity across the organization, define the role and responsibility for each function, and on the job description as well. At the end, on functional level, we have to define the service that provided by cybersecurity. So such model can handle the number of stakeholders across the organization. As we know, the cybersecurity is top-down approach. So it's coming from high level. Here we have our NCA, National Authority, down to Civil Aviation Authority, GACA. And under the GACA, we have stakeholders, airlines, airports, and SANS. Of course, we have a committee on those levels to follow and ensure cybersecurity function. Reporting cybersecurity incident, as we know, we have to have an incident management framework that defines the methodology, the team of the incident, the contact list, the assets inventory, etc. And plus, it includes the role and responsibility for stakeholders. They have their obligation to reporting the incident, the civil aviation to ensure that incident already mitigated and sharing with other entity, and the national authority to reporting as a national authority. It includes also the mechanism to sharing such information, whether external or internal, external with the authority, internal with incident response team and cybersecurity committee. Information sharing, we have a platform on national level, and we have a platform in civil aviation as well. This platform using threat intelligence solution that provide you the threat that targeting civil aviation, threat and vulnerability that targeting infrastructure of civil aviation, sharing the IOCs, indication of compromise. Sometimes we have a lot of attack attempt that's hitting the Saudi Arabia, so we are sharing all IOCs so other organization can take the necessary action to mitigate. We have our policy for information sharing, include the scope, who will benefit from this platform, registration, they have to registration, and the classification of the information that they are going to share, and using the proper communication channel to do so. At the end, this is Saudi Arabia contribution to enhance cybersecurity within CASB Middle East in Q3 and Q4. We are going to provide workshops in different category for cybersecurity engineer, and as well as awareness session that categorize on senior management and IT staff and users. I try to be a quick presentation, and thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mohamed. That was very interesting. We will have some time for a few questions.
Okay.
What aspects of the cybersecurity framework should be covered in civil aviation?
Yes, to answer the question quickly, we already mentioned that the different aspects in civil aviation, we have OT, we have different systems, we have to focus on OT, on IT. The popular framework, we all know that is ISO and NIST as well, but we need some control for OT to secure the OT. We need some control for cloud. We need to focus more on physical security for terminal. And that's it.
Okay.
This is the main aspect.
And how can we increase the efficiency of cybersecurity in civil aviation? Because we know that cybersecurity can be very costly. It needs resources, it needs investment in equipment, investment in training, in people. So how can we make this efficient?
Efficient, we talk about operation, cybersecurity operation.
Yeah.
Okay. We are now adopting the new initiative that is, we call No More Cybersecurity Center, No More SOC. The future of the SOC is CDC, we call it CDC, Cyber Defense Center. Maybe you know about the SOC and NOC, Network Operation Center, that is running on IT, and Security Operation Center running on Security Department. So the new is CDC, Cyber Defense Center, which is integration between SOC and NOC. So to have more visibility on the network level, more visibility to detect the malicious activity on the network, on the system, it's better to integrate both. What is the main function of NOC is to monitoring the network, to detect any failure on the devices or system, as well as any slowness on the system. So this might be because security reason is not only operation. So once we integrate both together, you can first, as usual say, security come first. So we have to look at it from security perspective. We have more visibility after integration. So we can do more about threat hunting and compromise assessment. So we are now one of the initiatives in 2022. It's a CDC, building our CDC.
Thank you. And I will ask you the opposite question that I asked to Dr. AlKuwaiti in the cooperation between the National Cybersecurity Center and the Civil Aviation Cybersecurity. So what is the relation you have in Saudi Arabia between your national authority in charge of cybersecurity and the civil aviation? How does it work?
National Cybersecurity Center are monitoring the whole kingdom network, and they have a certain framework that all your organization are follow this framework. So the integration and cooperation is mentioned in the policy and in the framework. Once we have any incident related to civil aviation or general incident that's hitting the Saudi Arabia, they are reporting to us in the proper channel, and we have to communicate back to them. They are following us until we mitigate and close this incident. If we discover something, we have as our obligation, we have to report it direct to them. And there is some integration on the technical aspect, on the solution itself. We get some feeding as a threat intelligence feeding. We get some feeding from them as IOCs. So they are following and monitoring and provide support for all organizations, and we have to get back to them according to the policy we are follow and the framework.
Good, thank you. So a good cooperation between
sure.
the domain and the global at a national level.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I think we are on time to finish this session. I just wanted to say one word on the trust framework that you were supposed to hear about. You've heard Administrator Pikowski talking about zero trust, and in ICAO we are talking about trust framework. So you might think that this is not consistent. Actually, the trust framework is a way to ensure that when someone or something connects to a network, you know who it is, so you check the identity, and you authenticate this identity. So you don't trust by default, but you need to have an identification process and an authentication process, and then you can assess and give a certain level of trust to the information or the communication that you are receiving. So I think that this is the same concept of the zero trust. You don't trust anything or anyone by default. you first need to assess who it is and authenticate this, and then you can trust the information. So this is a different way of approaching the same concept of coming from an analog world where you're communicating by radio and you're hearing someone, you don't have any possibility to identify this person and to authenticate who he is, to a world digitalized, where you will have the possibility to identify and to authenticate. So that's the same concept with different approaches, but we are not inconsistent between what Admiral Pikoski said and what we can think about the trust framework. Building a trust framework needs to identify and authenticate, and a lot of other dimensions to consider, but identification, authentication are the very basic elements to build a trust framework. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for being so patient. And I hope you enjoyed this afternoon hearing us talking about cybersecurity. It's not an easy topic, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.